You get some lobster and some waffles and some eggs and some fries. Mix it in your body. Shit it all out. I didn't like that. How the fuck am I supposed to do this? Can you hear me? Malenia. That's the name of the boss in Elden Ring. It's just a boss in Elden Ring. So I've been spending like the last 3 days trying to kill this boss, right? And you know, I was at the point where I pretty much learned the whole thing, and I was like, okay, maybe I should look up like a boss guide to try to find maybe some things that I missed, maybe some little tips that I might be able to pick up, and none of them. They're like, I don't know if it's just because it's the game is new. But there wasn't really any information that I hadn't already learned just by playing. And the boss guides that did exist were sort of inadequate. I mean, the first result, the one guy doesn't even know how to pronounce the boss's name when every time she kills you, she insists on reminding you who she is.
Today, we're going to be doing a guide on Malenia.
I don't know how you fucked that up. Malenia. I mean, it seems nobody knows how to pronounce or even spell this boss's name, because if you search it on Google, Google will, correct it to Malenia. Malenia, not to be confused with Malenia, or Melina, which is another character in the same game, or even Malentia, who's a character from a different From Software game, who surprisingly doesn't have dementia, even though everybody else in that game seems to have it.
I don't need to go home anymore. Home? Home? Where is home?
So yeah, Malenia. Blade of Mikola. Not to be confused with Mikola. Mikola is her brother. He's a dude. But don't confuse Mikola with Mads Mikkelsen. One is Hannibal Lecter. The other one is a tree. Well, he's a tree. Spoilers. Mikola's a tree. It's a spoiler. I thought he was going to be some major boss, but no, he just turned out to be a tree. I mean, he was a child, and then he became a tree, but he turned into a child. I don't know. I feel like story spoilers don't actually mean anything in this game because nobody understands the story in this game. Anyway, so all the boss guides for Malenia were kind of, they weren't horrible. But, there were just some things that maybe I had learned that weren't in there. The first result, the guy used spirit summons, which I don't have a problem with. It's just my first playthrough, I didn't want to use them. I'm not somebody who's you have to do everything yourself. In fact, don't. So this guy, it's it was clear that he didn't really learn the boss. I mean, he did. He killed it. But there were things he was talking about one move, and he was talking about how it was undodgeable, and you had to either run away.
There's only really two ways to survive this, is to miss the complete barrage itself by running away as soon as you see her do it, or using one of the shields, the golden shield, I forget the name off the top of my head, but it's the only two ways to really survive it. Other than that, you're not surviving this thing at all. It does so much damage, it's absolutely obnoxious. Alright, so now let's talk about the rotation and kind of the mindset you want to go into this fight. So as soon as you enter the door, you want to spawn your Mimic and then heal yourself, and then you want to put the ice on your weapon.
I'm that's that doesn't help me. I'm not gonna learn how to do it if I'm not using spirit summons, because everything was in context to having a Mimic summon.
Your Mimic is your lifeline. You have to protect him as much as possible. If Malenia is smacking your guy around, you best go in there and knock her upside the head, because if he dies, your run is over.
And then the other guy, the second result, he didn't even kill the boss. I mean, he wasn't even qualified to make a boss guide. he was like, you could tell, like, when he started talking about the second phase, he was like struggling on whether or not should I mention that I didn't actually kill this boss, and so he like panics and like pauses his footage and like tries not to show the actual end. And then when it gets to the end of the video, he's like, "Oh, I think I died on this one too." Like,
And yeah, so that's the Malenia fight, like I said. So yeah, I think that should be covered just about everything. I think I even died in this fight, so it's even better I don't show it.
what do you mean you think? If you had killed her, you would know. But to his credit, this guy didn't use spirit summons, and I did kill her. For the record, there's proof. There's footage. I know the bit rate is horrible. Just ignore that. That's how you know it's real, is because the quality is bad. This is it. Oh my god. So I'm not going to try to make like some definitive boss guide because I've never done one before. No, don't say that. I'm not trying to make like some like elaborate definitive thing. I'm just trying to be a guy. So this isn't going to be like a definitive guide because those are, probably better at that than I could do. But I just want to share some things that maybe that, no. But I just want to, talk about stuff that I learned that isn't mentioned in those videos. So yeah. So, okay, Malenia. Actually getting to the video now. The first thing that I really struggled with was her big spinny attack. She like jumps up in the air, does like this, and then she does a whole bunch of swipes, and it's like, the first few times I saw it, I'm like, it's undodgeable, it's completely, it's unavoidable, it's an instant kill without any fucking question. I don't know how you're supposed to do this. But that's not true. There's two strategies to avoiding this, and you're gonna have to learn how to do both. One of them is running away. It's perfectly viable. If you're a good enough distance away and you see her leap into the air, you can just start running the other direction, and she's got 3 big swipe attacks in this one move. The first one is gonna completely miss you because you're running. Depending on how far away you are or how close you are to a wall, you might be able to completely get missed by the second one just by still running. But you might have to dodge through it. That's fine. Usually you won't take any hits. Maybe you might take 1 or 2, but... and then the third attack is sort of this curve. And the way to do that is dodge through it first. And then as soon as you do that, dodge away perpendicular to what you just did. So that you're going. Yeah, that'll be footage. The other way is sometimes you're not going to be far enough away. Sometimes she's going to just start it when you're standing basically completely underneath her. On her first barrage, dodge slightly before she starts, and then there'll be a little window. You'll take a couple hits, but after that there'll be a little window, if your poise holds up, where you'll be able to dodge the last couple hits of that barrage. And then the other 2 is exactly the same. Dodge through the second one, then through, and then perpendicular. So it'll be anywhere from 2 to 4 rolls, depending on the situation. And a little tip, there's a way you can sort of bait that attack, because once you get, about a third of her health down, I've noticed that's when she starts doing the attack, and it's like pretty much guaranteed that she'll do it at least once shortly after she gets around that zone. So if you're in that sort of area of her health bar and she hasn't done it yet, then what you can do is when she's idling, she'll just like walk around and sort of just pace. When she's doing that, run toward her and then do like a U-turn. Do like a little hairpin and then start running the other direction. First of all, that's like the only way to guarantee that you're going to be far enough away. And also it's nice to have some momentum already going the other direction. And so you can pick where the line is, so you know you have enough room to do the full, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain without actually having the game in front of me. Anyway, So yeah, you can bait that attack, but you can't do it every single time because after she does it the first time, she'll just do it whenever the hell she wants. So she's gonna catch you with your pants down and do it when she's right in front of you. So you'll have to learn the other way, which is dodging. There might be a better way to do it when she's that close to you, but only way I know is to tank those 2 hits. So anyway, so in her first phase, the other attacks are pretty non-threatening. There's a couple that are worth mentioning though. There's one where she just does this. I don't know who taught her how to use a sword, but I don't think this would actually be that effective. But with that attack, it's very hard to completely avoid it. Often I just like to tank one of the hits because that's the only way I know I'm gonna Taj my roll. Taj. What the fuck? What word is Taj? Because that's the only way I know I'm gonna time all my dodges right, is doing that. So what you'll do is you'll roll backwards when she starts on her first one. Then she'll go, that third one is gonna hit you. And then she'll do another swing, and then you dodge that. Depending on how far away you are from her, sometimes doing that will make all of them miss you. And depending on, what your angle is in relation to her when she starts, dodging to either side sometimes can make all of her attacks miss on that combo. But the other attack that's worth mentioning is her big thrust. She has this thrust attack. That can one-shot you if you're not careful. It's really telegraphed. Telegraphed? What the fuck is telegraph? I'm gonna call you on a telegraph. Excuse me, Johnny. You're getting a call on your telegraph. Dad, it's telephone. Oh, is it? See, back in my day, it was the teleograph. It's really telegraphed, though. So, it's easy to time your dodges, but sometimes she will do it when you're not expecting. I'm convinced. I'm not gonna accuse FromSoft of anything, but I became convinced over the course of trying to do this boss that if you're at the right distance from her, as soon as you press your button to heal, your drinking button, at that moment, she is programmed to start her thrust move, because the game knows that move will hit you faster than you can get out of the way when you start to drink. Does that make sense? So just make sure when she's idling and you think that's a good time to drink, just do a couple rolls backwards, just 1 or 2, just to put a little extra distance from her, just so she doesn't pull that shit. Also, before I get into phase 2, I just want to mention I did a dual halberd. I did a dual halberd build, which is super cool. It's like way better than the other game where you can dual wield halberds, which is at that point it's like stupid. Like, might as well not even do it. So I was doing that, and all the messages on the ground were sort of telling me to try bleed, like try blood loss, and then victory. So I did, but I didn't go full. I didn't like do a whole like arcane and like lots of hits bleed build. I just put bleed on one of my halberds, and that, even just that, made all the difference in the world, because like, not only because the bleed gives you a little bit of extra damage, but when the bleed hits, when like she bleeds, she'll get like a stagger, and that stagger will get her out of any of her moves. Oh, she almost jumped. So that big thrust, if she just did a combo and you think you're good to do an attack, but she starts her thrust attack, you're basically dead. But if you have bleed, it can cancel that attack. With this move and her grab, you can cancel her out just by staggering her, just by hitting her normally. So, phase 2. What the fuck is wrong with my eye? Phase 2. The fuck? Phase 2. So in phase 2, she'll start with... So in phase 2, she'll start with this like big slam attack. She'll like get up in the air. She always starts with the same move in phase 2. She like gets up in the air. She grows these big golden orange wings, and then she does a slam, and then that explodes. right? And it's good that phase 2 starts with that, because you want to learn the timings of that pretty early on, because she does it later. Because in phase 2, she has 3 bullshit moves, where in phase 1, she only had the 1. And so learning that one as fast as possible, just by being in phase 2 to learn the timings, is super useful. The main tip I'll say about phase 2 that took me a while to figure out is keep your distance from her. It's kind of hard because instead of just pacing around, in phase 2, she'll like kind of run towards you. Stop following me. Go away. Oh my god, are you kidding me? How long has this been turned off? I'm supposed to be recording audio. Okay, I'm gonna do this shit properly this time and actually press the record button. Because my computer went to sleep, and then the audio didn't record for the last 10 minutes. So I re-recorded that, and I didn't press record when I started. So this is the 3rd time I'm going to be saying all of this. So I might miss things, or repeat things I've already said. This is bullshit. Anyway, in phase 2, she has a move where she does a big swipe and then a thrust. She like gets really high up in the air, does like a and then a that move is if you can learn the timings on that, then you've won. Because if you're keeping your distance from her in phase 2, she'll do that one often, and since it's easy to dodge and easy to get in attacks afterward, you'll be relying on it most of the time. And since you're already keeping your distance, her bullshit moves will be easier to avoid because you'll already be far away trying to bait this other attack. Speaking of damage in phase 2, bleed, if you're doing what I did and doing like sort of a half bleed build, it's fine. You don't have to min-max everything. I don't know. I feel like elitists are like, you like have to min-max your stats if you want to use a certain, you don't. Okay, if you want to use a little bit of bleed, go ahead and do it. But in phase 2, it might not be enough. Because in phase 1, I was getting bleed all the time. Phase 2, the only time I was able to do it is at the beginning. Because, here's a tip that nobody else mentioned. Her bleed bar carries over between phases. And I guess that probably applies to like poison and stuff too, I don't know. But if you finish her phase 1, and we're thinking like, ooh, I think she was about to bleed there. Then like, as soon as phase 2 starts, she does her slam, she does an explosion, you get buffs in. That's a good time to drink like a Wondrous Physic and like get your, I used Golden Vow, I don't know what the fuck. Anyway, after she does that, she'll like stand up. That's a great time to get in damage. She'll get staggered most of the time. And if you've got a bunch of bleed built up, she'll bleed again. So, but that, for me, that was like the only time I was able to do it in phase 2. So anyway, her big spinny move is basically the same, except now I think like the radius is a little bit wider of the actual swipes. And the move does Scarlet Rot damage now, but don't bother like trying to like get like a fuck ton of immunity, because chances are by the time you're infected with Scarlet Rot, you're dead. In the amount of time, a lot of time that I spent fighting this boss, only once did I get infected with Scarlet Rot, and I was still alive. So, I mean, it might happen. Maybe have a plan B, but I don't know. Anyway, the number one thing you have to look out for in phase 2, arguably the whole fight, is she has a move where she gets really high in the air, does this, like sort of Obi-Wan thing, and then like these ghosts will like come out of her and like do a move like one after the other. And then there's 2 at the end that have already done moves and sort of stand there for a second. Then they do thrusts, and then she does a thrust. Those are the most dangerous, because the other ones you can pretty much dodge just by watching them. But those 3 right in a row are really hard to dodge. So I'd say maybe the only way to do it, only way I was able to survive it, was to run. And I mean run, like haul ass. And I mean like take off your lock on and just run in the opposite direction as far as you can. You might have to like look back just to dodge the last guy. The last thrust, Ghost, has some serious range, but if you've run far enough, the first thrust and her actual thrust are not going to hit you. Just some other things about Phase 2 that I'll mention. Her moveset is basically the same, except there's a couple of extra floof. So like 2 of her combos have like a Scarlet Rot explosion at the end of them now. The one where she does like a flip, and one where she does like this and then goes. That is an explosion now. But those explosions are super easy to dodge. They're super small, very contained. And she also has, after some of her combos, she'll like jump up and do just a slam that has that explosion. That's super easy to dodge. Super great opportunity to get in damage. But keep an eye out, because that attack, sometimes she'll do one that looks like almost identical, except she does a swipe, and the timing's a little bit different. And then she does this thing. That's gotten me a few times. We good? Did I get it? Did I nail it? Am I done with this shit?
So, a lot of bleed stacking, and the reason for that is not just because of the damage it does to Miquella, the Blade Miquella.
Don't look a gift in the horse. Got Loretta's armor. What the fuck? What the fuck? I think some spam account says von.rent. Thank you for that. Do not alert the authorities. I have murdered someone. Is that good? I don't know. So yeah, I identify as a mungosexual. That means I'm only attracted to Among Us characters. Damn, red is looking sussy thick. Since the video cut out at the end, I'm not going to try to record more video. I got most of it. So I got to do an auditory closing. How the fuck am I supposed to do that? Goodbye? Maybe?